Man, it has been way too long since I've been back here actually working on something. I'm not going to get a whole lot done today because today's a high of, let's see, about 15 degrees. And I can't get that door to shut, and my heater's out of fuel, I think. So we're going to have to do a little bit more intensive work a different day. But I figured today I'd at least kind of, what's a good word for this? Revive an idea and a project and a plan. And a lot of you are looking at this, and first of all, some of you may not know what this is, and some of you may have never heard of this project, may have no idea what I'm about to talk about, but I'm going to cover all that and a whole lot more. So, as I said, kind of going into this video, I'm going to be covering a lot of different things. But main purpose of this is to tell you what that is, the purpose of it, and kind of a rough plan for it. So, and I'll do a full walk around of the car, and it's a huge major mess in here, and I need to get through once it's a little bit warmer and reconfigure this whole workspace. But this car is a 1966 Belvedere 2. This specific car is not anything overly special or important as far as what this car was originally. It was a 318 automatic with, I think it was green interior, but the car was white. And I'll explain why it's important that the car is white. So, real quick, how I got this car. I got this car from a good friend in South Dakota that we've done a lot of back and forth on parts and different other business within the parts, small part business that we do a lot of. And there's plenty of videos about the Mopar parts business, stuff like that on the channel if you want to check out stuff like that. But this car came from there. He had it for a few years. He never did anything with it. He bought it with the intention of parting it out or selling it to somebody like he did with me. So, this, excuse me, I'm still getting over being sick. That's another reason I'm not going to be doing a ton of work because I'm still sick and it's 15 degrees. So, bad combination. But the reason it's important that this car is white originally, but as you can see, the engine bay is purple right now, and that's going to be changing, um, is because that's kind of something that was pretty cool when I looked at the car, because this car is kind of paying tribute and homage to a car that my grandpa had. And this is long before I was ever even thought of, much less alive and remembering. So back, and I don't know the full details of the story, I'd have to ask him. But back in the kind of mid 80s, my grandpa bought a 1966 Belvedere that was white that was named Cheap Thrill. It was a former drag car, and it was just exactly what the name was. It was cheap, bare to the bones, cheap thrill drag car. And that's what I'm trying to recreate, but with my own kind of little bit of a spin on it. It's not a clone of the car, it's not a replica of the car, it won't be that, but it'll be close and it will pay respect to what the original car was. The original car, I believe, was also just a plain 318 car, nothing special, but it had a 440 in it with headers and I believe a mild cam and a better intake, and it had 456 welded gears in the back. Supposedly the car, I can't quote exactly, but supposedly the car ran, my dad told me it either ran real low 12s or real high 11s. I do kind of find that a little bit hard to believe just because the 440 didn't have anything real special going on with it, according to everything I've heard. But the car was pretty quick when he got it. It was white. It said Cheap Thrill on the quarter panel, and it just had one bucket seat in it. That's all it was. That's basically what the car was built to be, thus the name. But this car is going to be a little bit more than that in the way of the engine and in the way of just how it's kind of set up. So I'm going back with the 440 idea. This is going to have a 440 that is going to have ported 906 heads. It's going to be about 10 to 1. And kind of the crowning jewel on top of it, it's going to have a tunnel ram. I've never done anything with a tunnel ram. I don't have a ton of information on setting up tunnel rams, but I do have a pair of 600 vacuum secondary carbs that were built for a tunnel ram, and I do have a YN Stage 2 440 or raised deck big block tunnel ram. So I have all the parts to do it. I might need to find some headers, but the car will probably run inch and 7/8, just standard headers, nothing fancy, not fender wells or anything like that. It's going to be fairly basic. I mean, I'm going to be going as far as converting the car to manual steering, so I have more room in the engine bay and a bunch of other stuff like that, but we'll get to that when we talk about the more in-depth plan with the car. But, and this car, the other big point, this car we've had for a while. This car originally was going to be receiving the 500 horsepower 440 that ended up going into the Super B, and this was originally going to be the build for No Name Nationals 2022. For anybody that watches the channel, you know how that ended up. I didn't bring car, but I did end up going, and it was one of the most fun events I've ever been a part of. But this year we're bringing a car, and we're gonna have some races, and we're gonna have a good time, and we're gonna be rolling around in a 66 Belvedere with tunnel ram 440 if everything goes according to plan. I'm going to be very straightforward about that. Things happen, life happens. That's the plan. I'm not going to say it's a guarantee. But I do have all the parts for this car. I do have everything to put it together almost. And the plan for the car, I will get into and explain the plan and kind of series of operations we're going to go through as I walk around the car. So, as you can see, I got kind of a big mess in the way here, and there's not a bunch to look at here. I have the doors and everything, and I have this fender is going to be staying on the car. The other fender there is not. I have a different fender off of a parts car that will be going on this, just because that one has a bunch of kind of Bondo and stuff in the front of it, and I'd rather not use that because I have better ones. So, as you can see, somebody thought that it was a wonderful idea to paint the engine bay plum crazy purple. Bad idea. That's stupid, in my opinion. I try not to be overly opinionated, but if you're putting a high impact color on a 1966 car, yeah, no thanks. It's not supposed to be there, and that's all I've got to say about that. Like I said, I will be swapping for a manual steering box, but this engine bay is going to be stripped, or at least mostly stripped, and it will be painted white. I will be going through the entire car and painting all of it white, except the underside I will be painting black just for simplicity. I'm going to be going right up to the back side of this pinch weld and painting the whole underside from there back black. Just for simplicity, because it's going to make my life a lot easier and quicker. The car is actually really solid. A bunch of junk in it right now. As you can see, there's that original white paint and how nice those floors are. It's actually a really, really nice car. The original car, the original Cheap Thrill, was blue interior. As you can see, this was kind of like a greenish interior. Once again, for simplicity and for making my life easier, I'm going to be painting it black. I'm going to be painting the dash black. I have a different dash. This one's kind of a little bit rusty, scaly up top. But I will be putting a stock dash in. I may add some gauges right underneath the dash, or maybe through the glove box area. I don't know. I don't know the exact plan. I don't know what I'm even doing for gauges. I'd like to have the stock speedometer and stuff working, but the rest of it is kind of hit or miss. We'll see what happens. But back here is pretty solid. There is a rust hole there. right in there. It's a little bit weak. I'll be addressing that, as well as there's a hole on the other side as well. Same spot, same position. But the main rust of the car is been kind of taken care of. I've got to do finish welding and obviously body work, but I welded, as you can kind of see the line here. I had to add a little piece here, but this main patch here, that actually turned out pretty good. I still have to do some finish welding on it, but as you can see, I mean, it turned out pretty nice. This 440 is going to be getting involved in the build. We're not going to talk about that extensively. That's going to be a whole build series. This engine was rebuilt. They didn't do it right. They kind of screwed up the cylinder walls a little bit by having crosshatch. I was all screwed up. But the rotating assembly is all good. Steel crank, I believe factory rods and factory standard pistons that are of the flat top, higher compression, supposedly 10-1. That would have come in this 1969 440. So I'll be taking that, and if everything checks out, putting it in a different block, or maybe we'll go a different route. Not sure yet. But like I said, the rust side of the car is really nice overall. It's not rusty. The trunk is really, really nice. I had these shocks donated to me by really good friend Mark at Bigfoots and Mopars. If you haven't had a chance to check out his channel, definitely do so. He was at No Name last year, and he was the reason that I got to go to No Name last year. He let me tag along with him and ride down with him, and it was a really good time. So definitely check out his stuff. But moving around kind of back of the car, trunk gutters are all good. The quarter panel on that side is just about perfect, so I don't have any work to do there, thankfully. Not that I can't do metal work, but it's just not exactly my favorite thing to do. So I've got to finish welding this, and I've got to fix that little spot. So, and the two little spots on the rear forepan. And then I will be getting this thing up on jack stands, going underneath it, painting the underside, all black between the pinch welds that are underneath the rockers, pinch weld to pinch weld, from the back of the car all the way to the front pinch weld underneath the firewall. A lot of people do that, and it just makes life easier. I may pull the rear end. It is an 8 3/4. I will be running an 8 3/4 in the car, but I may end up pulling it to paint it and rebuild it. I don't know. We're gonna have to see what happens there. I might be getting different springs because I don't think these are probably going to be any good. Probably need to talk to Mark from Bigfoots and Mopars, see if his springs are still up for grab that he had out of the Jack Pine Savage, which, if you don't know, the Jack Pine Savage is a 1967 Cornet RT, so aside from the external sheet metal, it's the same car as this car. So very similar parts configuration, B body to B body. So anyways, there's kind of a bunch of junk in the way. I can't really get over to that side to show you guys that side, but it's very similar to this side as well. I'm going to be running these heads. These are 906s that have been ported. These were actually on a stroker motor that made over 650 horsepower that I bought from a guy last year. I didn't buy the engine. I just bought the heads because he went with aluminum heads. They are 906 heads, which they ran from 1968 through 1970. So they're good heads. And they've had the bigger valves upgraded, the 214 181. So they'll flow pretty good, and they'll get the 440 to act correctly, hopefully. And that 440, we're shooting about 475, maybe 500 horse. It depends. It depends on if I use the cam I have or if I end up upgrading the cam. I do have an old original purple shaft 509 cam, and that'll work fine, I believe, with the springs that are on those heads, and I shouldn't have any piston to valve clearance with right around that 500 lift, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. I may end up upgrading beyond that, um, but I know it's a good cam, and I have matched lifters for it, and that would completely avoid any potential cam failures that everybody's been having. So I don't know, just an idea. If you have any other opinions or ideas, let me know what you think in the comments. And the whole project. Let me know what you think in the comments about the whole thing. I'm excited about getting back to work on the car. Obviously, weather is kind of a big deal, as well as the cost of fueling that heater is not cheap. So, with that being said, definitely appreciate anyone and everyone that wants to help by watching the videos and supporting the channel and supporting the builds and supporting everything that we got going on. I definitely thank everybody that does that. But on that note, excuse me, I'm gonna kind of leave it there for the cheap thrill Belvedere for right now, and we're gonna be going over a whole lot more details and a whole lot more work in progress and a bunch of stuff going on. So if you like this stuff, definitely consider liking the video. I appreciate it. And I'm gonna leave it there, and I'll see you guys in the next one.